Doomsday Clock, number 11, Geoff Johns, Gary Frank. It's been 74 years. Yes, this is very much the penultimate issue. The whole issue feels like it's just about building up to the meeting with Manhattan.
90% of this issue is, here's the plot so far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it felt like a recap, but also a pre-cap. That's my main problem with this issue.
It's the most obviously disappointing issue. Not that it's bad.
Yeah.
Because it's not bad. It's that this is the first time where, after the wait of however long it's been since the last issue, that I didn't feel like, oh, that was so worth it.
Yeah, because all of them up until this point have all been very fulfilling on their own. This one, like you say, is not bad. And if anything, I would say that having some sort of recap right now is probably a good idea right before the last issue when there has been these big delays. But it is disappointing from the perspective of waiting all this time for a new issue and just being like, oh, it's just kind of recapping the events so far.
And it's not like there's nothing new in there. There is, but most of it is kind of setting the stage for the last issue.
And it's not as focused as a result as well. It's jumping around a lot. So it's just less of a coherent, I mean, obviously I can call it the recap issue, but I feel like with most of the other ones I say, issue, because the last one was very much the metaverse introduction and all the Superman history. That was that issue, and then there's other issues that are this and that, and they mostly have things that I can say that's what that issue is.
It's funny that it's been that long since the last issue, in comics terms, that that was the introduction of the metaverse, whereas now that already feels like, oh yeah, that's just a solid concept now that I'm already used to. It's been around years.
Which is a testament just how good the idea is. That all it needed was that one issue.
Yeah. But there's already been other books using it as an idea. In Justice League, for example, it's kind of just baked in there now. It's like that's the thing.
Do we think that Johns took advantage of some of these delays and kind of changed the story as it's going? Because I feel now if this were to come out, as it was supposed to, with only a couple delays, it had already been over for a while now. And I feel like with what's going on at DC right now, I feel like this lined up much better than it would have if it would have come out earlier.
I mean, that goes back to something that I think whenever we last talked about the delays is this, were the delays caused by them going, no, we need to change, so then we had to redo the issue and change plans? Or was it just, okay, the delays have caused this knock-on effect that other things are just, we talk about, in Justice League, them reintroducing the JSA. Yeah. Was that okay, it's taken too long for Doomsday Clock to do it, we're just going to do it? Or is it a case of editorial made this decision and they changed the plans, and then Doomsday Clock had to be changed to fit that?
Yeah. So now I don't know with what incepted what, because I feel like now the end game, going into Doomsday Clock, I thought the end game was, we're bringing back the Justice Society, we're bringing back the Legion, we're going to fix time into the timeline that we've always known DC to have. And now I feel like it can still do that, but the issue 12 is not going to be, hey, everything's right. There's still things to be done, and that's where Justice League comes in. That's where Bendis' Superman comes in.
Yeah, well, it's a weird question of because they always said that Doomsday Clock was set a year later, and by the time we get to the end, everything else would catch up. But it's obviously taken so long to get there that my question is now is, okay, exactly where is Doomsday Clock set? Because let's say that it still kind of lines up with what Justice League's doing, because Snyder was saying this week in an interview that it is going to line up with Doomsday Clock, that it's not going to be contradicting it.
They don't negate each other. Whereas Doomsday Clock is what happened, and okay, maybe it'll change some things to fix, but that doesn't undermine anything that's going on in Justice League with them not knowing the past.
Because here's the thing: if this would have come out back when it was supposed to, and it breaks the way it is, then the event at the end was Saturn Girl, right? And we don't know how that ends. Clearly we would have, because of issue 12. And then we would have had to wait how long until Bendis reintroduces the Legion.
Probably
in this last issue of Superman.
6 to 8 months.
Right. And now, so I feel like, that would have been cool, because it would have been the story point. But now it's almost serendipitous that in the same month that this came out, we got the Legion return and the JSA.
I have to admit,
you know?
I am disappointed because I feel like had this came out long before we knew, Bendis was doing a Legion book and everything else, Sarton Girl saying "Long lived it" and then dusting away at the end of Infinity War before she can finish the sentence would have been so good to make fun of with Matt. I am disappointed that I couldn't rub that in his face.
Yeah. And maybe that's why I feel like I dodged a bullet there.
So here's the question: do moments like that for you guys? Do you feel they lose impact knowing that?
No.
Oh, they're actually back already, so it doesn't really matter.
No.
Or is the storytelling good enough that it mattered anyway?
Yeah. In this case, it's good enough. I could see it being problematic with a writer that I'm not, or even a story that I'm not 100% into. But with this one, with what her disappearing means, it's still a holy shit moment for me. Because just even in the story, not what it means for the greater universe. Because this version of Imra might be gone forever because she doesn't resemble the one that we got in Superman. You know what I mean? So maybe Manhattan did completely change something now, and this Legion comes together completely differently than hers did.
What I think is notable in this scene that we're discussing is the ring doesn't vanish. She does.
Right.
Because Vite tells you're no longer part of this timeline, and that's when the realization is when she vanishes, but the Legion ring exists, so the Legion is still part of the timeline, just not her specifically, or as Matt might have got out there, not this version of her.
Right.
Yeah. Before you start talking about that too much, though, that's because we do have to go through this book kind of in order. Although I do think we're going to fly. I think we're going to fly through this fairly quickly because I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about necessarily with everything. Batman basically stops the US from launching nukes. He just shows up and beats up soldiers. So they won't launch attacks.
Pretty much.
Which kind of made me laugh, I'm not going to lie. Alfred reads the Rorschach journal and kind of starts to sympathise a bit more with the new Rorschach and with Reggie. So there's
a great panel when we get into the looters on the street. You hear one of them say, "Oh, I see free stuff," and then there's the note on the whole, you see what you want to see. It's one of those great panels in these books that have been consistent throughout.
Yeah, it ties into kind of Alfred, and he sees what he wants to see in Rorschach.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So here's the thing too. Remind me with his origin. His parents died in the alien attack, right?
Yeah, nuked. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, the effect of nuking, yes, of New York.
Right. Okay. Because because something else happened, the dream that he has. That was not that it confused me, but because of the delays in this book, I forgot. what was canon. So
chaos is all over the place.
We have Trump giving a speech.
Yeah, Trump sounding like an idiot as per usual. The bigger they are, the bigger they fall. As it puts.
Mr. President
stood up to Kandak's evil leader and his very bad metahumans. You can hear him saying it, can't
you? Yeah. I feel like he would also screw up the word metahumans, though, if we're being really honest.
And then he'd take a Sharpie and correct it.
The only way I'm letting that slide in this instance is that in this world, metahumans is such a normal thing.
Sure.
So he it's not like our exact version of Trump would struggle with, ours probably would, because he'd be like, what's that? This version, I think I'll give the benefit of the doubt that much at least.
Yeah, Lois is still with Lex, and he's trying to assure what's going on, and that leads to a plot. And of course, we do eventually cut back. The title page is Superman waking up, because we saw him, lying there at the end of last issue, but this is him starting to actually properly wake up. And I kind of knew, actually, as soon as I got to that page and I saw him sort of dragging himself off the sort of hospital bed, I said to myself, we're not going to get the confrontation in this issue. It's going to end with him getting there. It's just going to be the journey to that point. So, which, I mean, helped the rest of the issue, because any disappointment I had was here at this moment, because I knew that's what it was going to do as soon as I hit this page.
And again, it's disappointment in the sense of, you wanted just a bigger chunk, but it's still so well told.
Yeah. Well, and this is where I think that normally with Johns, he has that 7 issues, and that 6th issue really is the one where the big climax happens, and then everything else is fallout in that 7th issue. And so we've been conditioned. I thought maybe that would happen here.
So you think, 11's the big one?
Yeah, right. And then we'll see where everything goes. But I feel like now, with the way DC's gone, what's been happening in the other books, that's really the fallout of what's going to happen in 12.
Yeah.
So, but seeing the Planet Krypton restaurant, I thought that's definitely metaverse at play here.
Oh, sure.
We've never seen that in anything but Kingdom Come.
Yeah, I'd eat at a Planet Krypton restaurant. I would.
Oh, for sure.
I do like the little touch of having the weather channel, like say there's lightning coming over Johnny Thunder, in his cell. I thought it was a nice little touch. And it's jumping around all over the place here. Like, there's not as much of a strict through line in this issue. But you got Ozymandias and his plans coming together, and a lot of this issue is also him kind of basically just like gloating that his plan is actually like it's everything's going according to his plan.
So what you're saying is it feels like right before the end of Watchmen.
It does. It really does. I mean, he does admit that he changed his plan. There was a plan to a point, and then things changed when he learned about Superman and that. But
it's basically the same plan, though, right? He's trying to force people together by making them fight to realize fighting's stupid, and that hasn't blown up on him before. So I'm going to try it on this new place. And,
Yeah, kind of.
Right? I mean, or was that just me, from my, I read Watchmen so long ago. It hasn't really...
I mean, me and Pete did reread Watchmen right before this started.
2 years ago.
Patreon, but that was 2 years ago, yeah.
That's, you still have more years on me. It's been longer than that. But
I mean...
I just feel like this is his same exact plan, and he has learned nothing thus far.
It's a similar plan.
I don't think you're wrong.
I shouldn't say same exact.
The particulars have changed, but the broad strokes are the same. The purpose. I'm with you.
I mean, this is the thing, though, is comics readers were expecting all the heroes to come back. And, of course, they have to, because it's not like... Because almost every hero died on Mars, essentially.
Yeah. Or so they think, yeah.
They're effectively all gone. So there's no way we're ending Doomsday Clock without them all coming back. Does that play into Ozymandias' plan? Does he know that they can come back?
Right.
Is there more to it? But here's the thing, though. Is his plan here, like, this is the one key difference, I think, in his plan, potentially, if I'm right, in what I'm saying here, is that his plan in Watchmen was to sort of scare the people of the world into banding together. I think the plan in this is to scare Dr. Manhattan into being a good person again. Like, I think, it's to make him care.
Yeah, you say good person. I think you just mean person.
Okay, person.
Because he's so removed from it all.
It's to scare him into activity.
Yeah, but the point I'm making though is that it's not about the population. It's not about convincing the world. It's about convincing him, as opposed to everyone.
Because he removed him from that equation in the last one, and look what happened.
Yeah.
Right. It all fell to pieces.
So
but yeah,
Lex shows this photo, the photo of John, the photo from Watchmen that we've seen a bunch of times. Yep. He's like, oh, this we found this was found in 1938. It's because ties back into the last issue, and when Superman first appeared, yada yada yada. And he talks about how he was actually kind of spying on the Flashes during Rebirth, and a few other little things. But he finds another photograph, and then we get the room where he's got dozens and dozens and dozens of the exact same photograph, and theorizes that something is creating them. The idea that because we know John can create matter, can create and destroy. So the idea that wherever John goes, he is actually kind of unconsciously almost creating this photograph. It's almost like the single fragment of his humanity that's still there.
Right.
That's creating this in his wake. So that's going to end up being very important to bringing him back to some humanity.
It could, and I mean, there's more on this in the back matter as well.
So I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, because I think I'm just going to get to it here, and it's quite interesting. The back matter is okay, here is, X amount of examples of this photo and where they were recovered, and it's got a lot of detail on all of them. One of them, Wesley Dodds had, I think, I believe.
Yep.
Things like that. Oh, this is interesting. And then you turn the page, and the final item is a different photo. It's instead of all of the same one, and it's that classic Flash, Flash of Two Worlds cover, with Jay, and it's okay, that's interesting because that's kind of just throwing a wrench in all of that there.
Yeah.
Well, to me, what that says is that comes from a different source, in a way.
Yeah.
It says to me that there's whether it's Jay or Wally or whoever, but someone's been close to Manhattan, and this photo's been created from their memory.
Yeah,
or their...
yeah. But this was
to me, that's a thing that's an example that's free from Manhattan's influence, because you look at these other ones and they're all very much of the metaverse. Because you start looking at item 6 that was found in the cemetery in Smallville, Kansas in '56. So that tells me that's Silver Age Superman, right?
Yeah.
And then the one after that, it was the same photo found in a field in Smallville, Kansas in '86. Well, that's the Man of Steel series.
Yeah, that's post-crisis.
Yeah.
Right? So that's post-crisis.
What's interesting about item 12, the Flash picture, is it says it was found at the site of discovery of the first picture.
Right.
So, okay, there is all these items there. Okay, so it's not just Manhattan. So I don't think Manhattan maybe is even the one creating them necessarily. Maybe it is a metaverse thing.
Yeah.
And so it's the JSA have them as well. All these other things that have been lost and have changed through time.
So where did he say that the first one was found? It was Carver Coleman's.
1938. Yeah, it came from 1938.
Yeah, it was Coleman's apartment. Right?
So that's when this all started. That's when he found Carver, Manhattan, found Carver on the film set, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
But I think the focus is still on Manhattan. The fact that they're all his photo, they're all barring one. And there's only one that's been found that's not of his. Like, it says that he is more important. It says that he is more connected to whatever's causing this.
It is. I think it's important to note that there's another one. I think that's an interesting little reveal at the end to tell us it's not just about Manhattan. It's not only him.
It could be about him, but the idea that the reason why there's other photos now appearing is that his influence, it's still kind of like funneling through him in a weird way, but it's not coming from his core experience or his core life or personality. It could tell me that it's a third party that's not a person even, it's just like the Speed Force or something making
that's why I was throwing out maybe it's the metaverse doing it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd specifically say it's the metaverse specifically, but
yeah, that's why I just said maybe. Yeah,
the idea that some force of some kind is
it goes into what Pete was saying earlier, because I just reread the Lois scene where she sees all of the pictures right hanging, and it looks like there's way more than 12 there, right?
Yeah.
To be fair, I said dozens and dozens, not one dozen.
Yeah, I know, but
no,
we were basing it off of the
12 at the end.
Sure. Right. So, I think it goes into what Pete was saying about finding his humanity in Dr. Manhattan, because Lois is like, "What? So you're saying that these photos are traveling through time?" And Lex is like, "Well, not these photos, but someone's leaving them like a breadcrumb." Right? And she asked, why would someone do that? And Lex is like, I don't think they're aware of it. So maybe this is John, not Dr. Manhattan,
the real person.
His humanity poking through.
Yeah.
And maybe in defense of that, the next scene, as we cut to, we're on the photo, and then Manhattan's narration comes in, and we see him, and okay, there's another photo behind him.
Yeah, I will say that being unaware of is what makes me think it's him himself, because if that line wasn't there, I might theorize that this is actually someone like Night Owl who's leaving a trail for people to solve the problem. But because he specifically pokes at the idea that no, whoever's doing this may not be aware of it, that makes me think it is Manhattan himself.
I agree.
So, yeah. No, I mean, so there is some interesting stuff in this issue. It's not like there's no interesting new stuff to talk about. So a bunch of armed forces come for Superman. They want to arrest him, and of course he tries to talk them out of it and flies off. And Ozyman, this is looking very intimidating, because Saturn Girl's very like, Superman's going to stop you, and he's like, he doesn't even know I exist. And then he's like, oh, I'm counting on him surviving whatever comes. Like,
yes, because that's never backfired for you before, has it?
Actually, really interesting as well. That's when the movie ends, the Carver Coleman movie on the TV. So
yeah,
panel right before that.
It's not who wins or loses; it's how you played the game.
Yeah,
right.
And then Alfred's making pancakes.
Yeah, now that takes me back. Remember those promotional material pancakes that they were doing? Yeah,
they were playing the long game with that one. And then we have a scene. Reggie's sleeping on the street and he's having a nightmare. He sees his father, and then it's very Terminator 2. He sees fire and brimstone, and but then oh god, what was the name of the guy in the hospital with him?
Well, yeah, it was the Moth guy.
Yeah, the Moth guy. I was trying to remember his name, but he appears in the dream. And so, again, sort of says you see what you want to see, and of course the more the flames engulf him, the more he looks like an ink blot, the more he looks like a Rorschach test.
Rorschach.
Yeah. So no, really cool. And then of course it turns, and it's just as Rorschach's grabbing him, which obviously I think it's implied that this is Kovacs. In his dream, Kovacs is the Rorschach grabbing him. But then of course that's when Alfred wakes him up, and he's not very appreciative of the pancakes. He throws the pancakes away. Poor Alfred.
Yep.
Put all that effort in. Fresh pancakes.
He did.
Fresh pancakes.
Yep.
Maybe Marionette are causing chaos on the streets.
Chopping off hands.
Yeah. Comedians even there, handcuffed, but still landing on people, as you do. That's the whole thing. And we get our first kind of real tease as to who their kid is. Because obviously we knew their kid's still alive. That was a reveal from earlier.
Yeah.
And it's someone... Let me just read the actual thing. So this boy would be adopted by a couple, and he would bring incredible joy to a woman who had been very important to John at one time in his life. And then, of course, the name that's mentioned here is Good Morning, Mrs. Hollis.
Yeah.
Right, I'm looking this up. Isn't that the first Night Owl?
It sounds, I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
So...
Yes. Hold on. So
Yeah. So they're Sam and Sandra Hollis is the identities that Night Owl and Silk Spectre take at the end of Watchmen.
So it's Silk Spectre and
So
right, so
Hollis is the first name of the original Night Owl. So that's where they
Hollis Mason.
Yeah.
That's right. So basically, this is who they adopt when they're growing middle-aged together and retired from superhero work. They actually adopt this kid. So this is a very intriguing way to tie a Night Owl to this, actually.
Yeah.
Just in a very sort of small way. It's just like, it's not making him a big deal or anything like that. Yeah, this is the sort of thing. If this, I mean, even if it came out once per month from the start, it'd still been 11th month since we'd read the book. So I don't know if I'd remember
that exact name,
that exact detail, even in 11 months. But maybe it would have worked better instead of 2 years. But regardless, it's a neat little touch that this kid presumably is going to be a good person because of who's raising him. And then the very next panel is just the face of Marionette just looking completely psychotic and demented. Very cold. So Ozymandias kind of just explains his plan, how he was manipulating Mayman Marionette and manipulating Reggie, and how he then changed these plans completely when he got here. So, there's this, not quite a full page spread, but it's like the top 2/3 of the page.
2/3 panel, which is gorgeous.
Of just the most of the main heroes in the world. It's like, oh shit, this is
and worth noting, he uses the best Green Lantern.
Yeah. Like all of my favorite characters minus Superman are there.
Well, I think
Superman's a very notable omission.
Yeah, I think Superman's making a point. It's making a point and saying, you know.
Oh man, when was the last time we saw that Nightwing costume in a comic?
Yeah. You have Wally West there. That's the Wally West costume.
Yeah. So yeah, Ozymandias basically just confirms what we already thought about Firestorm exploding in issue 8 or 9, whatever that issue that was. Mm-hmm. We kind of speculated it was them.
And he does acknowledge that this is a new plan. You know, the change that he got since he got here, but it's to save both worlds.
It was once he saw this world and the way everyone was and the heroes and. Yeah. So, and of course, as this is all going on, Black Adam and his team of villains show up at the White House. Superman shows up as well to kind of stand guard.
Look at those tiny hands.
All right.
That's going to trigger a good number of people, so that's
quite good. But that was subtle. I'm going to give you that one.
Yeah. So yeah, Superman's there, and then we get the heartbreak of the issue for me.
Oh yeah, Saturn Girl.
Yeah, had I not just had a Saturn Girl show up in Superman last week, this would have been devastating, and I might have thrown my.
You mean if you didn't have a Legion book starting today?
Yeah. Featuring a character I've grown quite fond of, which we'll get to, but
yes.
Yeah. I probably would have thrown my book across the room at 5:30 in the morning on Wednesday. So not 5:30 on Thursday.
Just in the
when I read it
in the pile.
Yeah.
There's a Legion book.
Yeah. So.
Poor Johnny's left, sitting there because he's like quite a crying old man. You're from the past. You won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So
just the close up on the lantern.
But that's the thing. The Legion ring doesn't go anywhere, and the lantern's still there. So. I feel like the timeline's been fixed now. Whereas you know what I mean?
Been fixed? Yeah, it's fixed already.
I don't think the lantern itself is not indicative because the lantern already existed. It was just a case of it was moved so that Alan Scott never got it, right? So there would be nothing to make that vanish. Whereas the Legion ring itself, I think, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. I think, you're pretty right. It has been fixed. That's why it doesn't vanish. But it's why... Right. She vanishes. It's there's a different version to take place.
It's hyper time.
Yeah. So Superman's hit across the city by Black Adam or whoever else. It's counting down because Manhattan's like, in 6 seconds Superman will see me. So it counts down, and the final page of the book is them facing each other in the middle of this, basically destroyed street, and it's like it's
Luther
time.
Street by the look of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah, Luther Street. Interestingly, that sign's pointing at Manhattan as well, just because the way the post is bent over. Yeah. It's actually pointing at Manhattan.
And he's bald. And his wiener's flopping out.
His wiener is flopping out. This is true.
Joe, it's funny that over the 12 issues, I've stopped even noticing that now.
Yeah, well, because you don't. Yeah, he's almost a Ken doll at this point, where you're just like, all right.
Yeah. Until you said that, I went and did a double. I was like, oh yeah, so it is.
Yeah.
It's still there.
It's quite restraint on Gary Frank to not have the sign pointing at his wiener. Right? Because that was me. I would definitely.
Yeah.
It ends with the Veet saying it's time.
All right, so that is his. I was trying to figure out, is that the?
That's his cummerbund.
Okay. It's not a cummerbund. It's his. It sits across his chest here. It's his. Like the Green Ranger and White Ranger wore those power vest things.
I knew it was.
Pads.
I knew it was his outfit. It was the middle of his outfit.
But it was driving me nuts. I was trying to figure out what the hell is that thing. But yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of iconography in this issue.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way the atom on Manhattan's head, that symbol. The way it transposes into the Earth and the Moon, and then
it's 12 o'clock.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's Doomsday.
Yeah.
Swear to God, if he turns into Doomsday, I'm gonna be mad.
No, you're not. You're gonna love it.
Superman's gotta slug it out with him.
Now I want a clock that's just got Doomsday picture on it, just so I can see it's my Doomsday clock.
Yeah. It's not that hard. I'm sure there's one on Etsy.
Probably. This is my Doomsday Clock. Oh dear. Countdown to when Matt gets upset because they've ruined Superman again.
Just give it time.
Give it time. The Bendis era will come to a close at some point.
So, not to sidetrack, but when I pulled up Silk Spectre to find out the names and whatnot, I didn't realize that the characters from the comic are going to be in the new show. Did you guys know that?
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them are, yeah.
Yeah, and she's being played by Jean Smart.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize this.
Yeah, Jeremy Irons is old Ozymandias as well.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. I was just rereading this back matter again.
Yes.
I love the final paragraph under item 12, the last little bit. Lex saying, I believe our universe is ever evolving, and I have lived past lives alongside Superman, and I'm locked in endless battle with him. Like, just the idea of him acknowledging that that kind of metaverse is kind of astounding.
Yeah, no, I really liked the bit with Lex where he realized that in lots of different, universes that him and Superman always seem to be at odds with each other, and there's never a winner. He'll never win, and Superman will never win. And his attitude to that is like, well, I'm going to try and fix this eternal loop so that I have won. Like that's basically his attitude.
And so he owes me one.
Yeah,
it's so Lex.
Yeah,
it is, and that's why I love Lex, because yes, he's a villain, but his villain comes up. His villainous comes from wanting to upstage others. Yeah, he could cure cancer, but that means it's cured, and what else would he do?
Yes, and if I've not made this clear already, Lex in Doomsday Clock is a million times better than Lex in Justice League.
Yeah, not going to disagree there. I am not a fan of Apex Lex, who just stands there in monologues now.
What's this? What's that sound? That sound of salt in the distance. I love it. Yeah, no, I mean, it's actually still very solid. It's definitely the least exciting one on its own out of like every issue by its very nature.
It's a nice summary issue, and the art is still phenomenal.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Everything from top to bottom.
The care on every single panel is astounding.
Yes, but ultimately it's all building up to the final issue, and so at the end I'm like, well, I want the final issue.
Yeah.
All my meat's in the next issue, damn it. How dare you?
Yep.
We might get it by the end of the year.
I think we will. I don't think Frank would go out on a limb like that without him knowing.
Matt, what are you rating Doomsday Clock? 11 out of 10.
This is an 8.5. Still fairly high, but not as exciting as Pete already said.
Cara, what you rate it?
I'm going to give it easily the lowest score I've given an issue of Doomsday Clock. I'm giving it an 8.
I'm actually going to agree with Cara. I'm going to give it an 8, which, for the record, is easily the lowest score I've given to a Doomsday Clock issue.